Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode 401. We are recording and broadcasting live on Monday, April 18th, 2022. I'm David Lott. Joining me as always is Bobby Jackson. How's it going, Bobby?
Hey, not much. How's it going?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Just another Monday here with you guys.
Just another Monday.
Just another Monday.
We'll get through it together.
That's right. We'll get through Monday together. Well, we've basically gotten through Monday.
This is fair.
This is the nice cherry on top of Monday. Yasha is also here. Yasha Wilson, how's it going?
Hey, everybody. This is the best part of the Monday. Getting a chance to catch up with you folks and geek out a little bit.
Exactly. And also here, Michelle Hillard. What's up, Michelle?
Monday fun day. Hi, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Welcome. Plenty to talk about, as always. This week, our featured review is the Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore. We'll be getting to that later in the show. Before we get to that, big day in the world of Marvel. We got the first look, our first teaser trailer. Based on the link, I'd call that a teaser trailer.
Yeah, no.
For Thor, Love and Thunder. There's that poster if you're watching us on YouTube or wherever we have video. So the teaser trailer dropped this morning. First look at it. I'm very curious to hear everyone's thoughts. Who to start with? Who wants to go first? Who wants to share their glorious thoughts on Thor, Love and Thunder? Michelle, you seem excited. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I love Thor. I mean, yeah, I love Thor. Thor's great. No, I mean, I'll be honest. I think Thor is always kind of one of my favorite Marvel comic characters. And the films have been spectacular and fun to watch, and I've enjoyed all of them. So I know some people are like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, no, I like all the Thor movies. I think they are all really good in their own right. And I've been waiting for this one for so many reasons. And I will have to say this teaser trailer for me delivers in that it gives me just enough glimpse of what I already kind of know is going to happen, but it leaves me going, wait, but why did, and how can I want to see the thing, and wait, what? Oh my God, that's so exciting. So for me, it's a good teaser trailer. I think they did a really good job. I think they, using Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine. And the way the sequence starts out was really good. And it's a solid teaser trailer. I'm definitely interested and hyped and looking forward to seeing more. You get to see a little bit of the transition from fat Thor back to a more svelte, fit Thor. And then, no surprise, there's definitely been a theme of metal rock 70s 80s kind of going in here with this one. It's kind of been a thing that's been happening. We knew it was kind of happening, and definitely at one point he's definitely holding hard to that 80s rock hair, and it looks good from what I can see, and it definitely has me excited but also intrigued, and for all the right reasons. So
if only we could get a Thor Peacemaker crossover film.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah.
All right. Yasha, what do you think of this one?
I am ready. I am so excited. Michelle, the music. I love the little teaser of Pratt in there and the Guardians in there. And honestly, they could be in it for 15 minutes and just use it as a jump off for their own movie, for the final movie. They could literally just use that. I mean, I definitely want to see more of them, but even if they're just in it for 15 minutes and then they just disappear and they're gone, and I'm here for all of it. I just thought it was a fantastic, wonderful tidbit, and the music was fantastic. The amped, they're definitely, like you said, staying in that realm of like the 70s and transitioning into the 80s rock. And I expect this soundtrack is going to be bumping and just a lot of fun to listen to. I mean, it just looks like a shit ton of fun. It just looks like a ton of fun. Really interested in seeing what Gore is going to look like. We haven't seen him yet, and I'm excited to see what he does. But man, this has got me amped. I think I watched the trailer like 3 times. Like I am super excited for it. I'm just here for all of it. It's didn't disappoint with leading into like what we should expect from certain aspects of certain characters. I'm excited. I mean, I want it to happen. I'm here for July. I mean, it's right around the corner. Marvel came hard today. They really came hard. They're like, oh, Batman's coming out today. I see your Batman and raise you Thor. And it's just like,
Yeah.
man, that's literally what it felt like they did, because they released a couple of different posters, and then they just came with the teaser, and they're just like, yeah, I don't want anybody talking about Batman. Let's all just focus on the God of Thunder.
Yep.
All right, Bobby Jackson. Did you watch it?
I did, and it's funny. I didn't even think about that connection until Yasha mentioned it. The fact that Batman dropped today, and then
Marvel and Disney said, "Oh, WB, stand aside."
Yeah, I mean,
it's like they were just like, "Yeah, that's cool, guys. Let's go ahead and
that's cool.
It's a really cute little movie on your streaming service there."
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, I if that's a coincidence, it's such a huge coincidence just because the way it lined up. But I think that for a teaser, it's a good tease. I think in the way that it gives you just a little bit, a hint of some story elements in terms of just showing where everyone's at after Endgame, because gosh, it feels like it's been forever since there's been a mainline Marvel movie. So it's hard for me to remember if Thor has been in anything else since Endgame. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it just gives you a little glimpse at, okay, here's the table setting for where we are post Endgame. And Thor's a little bit lost and he's trying to find himself, and so we're going to see where that leads. And like you guys mentioned, the Guardians of the Galaxy make an appearance in there, so that's cool. And I think that the fact that they didn't show the villain yet was fine by me, because this is just a teaser. I don't think I needed that yet, and I do think it was a good idea and good for them to at least tease the mighty Thor at the end when you see Jane Foster with the hammer. So I think, for as teasers are concerned, it did a pretty good solid job of saying, hey, here we come. And especially when you think about the fact that this movie comes out in July, and here we are mid-April pretty much, and so it's really right around the corner in terms of that movie coming out. And they're just like, that engine, that steam engine is just rolling right now. That this train is on the track and is moving. We got Moon Knight, then we've got Doctor Strange, and then right around the corner is Thor. So Thor: Love and Thunder. So they're just on track right now, moving full steam ahead. And I think that if I that's all my thoughts in terms of what I think this teaser did. In terms of myself, I still feel like I'm still one of the only few people on the planet that wasn't a big fan of Ragnarok. So for me, this looks like more of that. So it'll be very interesting, and I'll be very curious to see how I receive this movie when it actually comes out, because it looks good, but I don't know if it'll line up for me, because a lot of what didn't line up for me in the Ragnarok movie was the timing of the humor. I didn't mind the humor. It's just that it comes so quickly after something serious happens that it just felt weird to me. So I know that it's going to be Taika doing this one again, and
Yeah.
I like pretty much most of everything he does. So it's weird that Ragnarok doesn't hit me the right way, and I don't know if this one will. And just from seeing the teaser, it didn't make me pumped up more to go see it. I was just like, oh, cool. This is finally here. People have been waiting to see this, and I'm glad it's here for everyone who's been waiting to see it. And I hope I can get on that level of excitement once the movie actually comes out.
I guess that leaves me. That look, Yasha, about you seem disappointed about me.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't see the look.
Well, I was gonna say I was gonna let David do his review, and then we'll talk about Taika.
Well, I was going to
That's what I
say,
was
if you seem disappointed about me, you're not going to want me to talk.
Oh God, you guys make me so sad. You guys are like killing my buzz, man. I haven't even done anything.
Hey,
Killing
when it comes to Ragnarok, Bobby, I'm right there with you. Cheers.
David's with you on that one.
Well, I did think though, David, you had saw it a few more times subsequently, and it
It's-
kind of grew a little bit on you, but
a little bit. It's like it's one of those things where, any movie. I think about like the prequels. I actually been watching the prequels lately with the kids.
really, okay, got
We'll
it.
get into that in a minute.
And that's a whole other subject.
Hold on.
But it's like one of those things, like where you accept what they are,
Yeah.
and then you just get out of them what you can and go, well, these are part of the canon, right? And it's like Ragnarok. Like any of the problems I had with Ragnarok never changed. It's more like, okay, well, what I like about it, upon repeat viewings, what I like about it, I enjoy. And then when I don't, I just kind of push to the side, I guess. It's mentally, it's weird. But I don't really feel any differently about it. Like, in a way, it kind of grows on me, but in a way, not really. Like, I wouldn't, if I had to do an initial review on it, it would probably sound exactly like when we did our review back in the day. This teaser, I watched it, and my immediate reaction was, it's like Ragnarok. All that humor aspects of Ragnarok, just let's completely lean 100% into it, totally. And I mean, this is just a teaser, and will the movie really be like that? I mean, of course, I don't know, but if I'm going to review this teaser, I watch it and go, I don't want a Thor movie that's just 100% comedy, and that's what I get in this teaser. Like, it's just total comedy. And sure, I enjoyed Thor. Basically, the Thor from Ragnarok and the Thor from Endgame, is that funny, comedic Thor, and it's fun, and I enjoy it. But do I want to see a movie that's just totally that Thor and not at all the Thor from Infinity War or his first two movies? No, I loved Thor in Infinity War. Like that kick-ass Thor that shows up at that final battle at the end of the film, like one of the greatest entrances in a Marvel movie I've ever seen, and I want to see that. And will we probably get some of that in this movie? We probably will, but I can't help but watch this teaser and go, ugh. I just, like you just said, Bobby, I fear everything I didn't like about Ragnarok is just going to be amplified in this movie based on this teaser. So I watched it and I was like, I was not a big fan of what I saw. Like that was my opinion. I think Yasha just left.
Yeah, Yasha just checked out. He just leaped himself out of existence.
I think what's really curious thing about this whole discussion is I feel like, well, from what I know, is that I know that David loves a lot of Taika Waititi's work.
Absolutely.
And Taika has his own sense of humor. He has his own tone, and the way he delivers things. The timing is always a little weird. It's a little dry. It's awkward. It's humor based a little bit off of a little awkwardness. And yeah, like in Ragnarok, he definitely got to showcase his humor for sure. And it kind of helped to give Thor a slightly lighter-hearted side for sure, which in some aspects Thor kind of needed because he was very kind of uptight. And I'm saying all this, I agree with David. I love the past Thor the humory Thor kind of is a little weird to me. But then there's jokes like in Endgame that he has that are really that are pretty funny, and there's jokes that are in Infinity War that are really good that he has with the Avengers or with Guardians, excuse me.
Mhm.
And so I do enjoy that aspect, but I agree. Like, do I want Love and Thunder to be fully humor, like totally just a comedy? I really don't. And my fear is also that it's going to be totally comedy. I'm kind of in a weird way hoping that they get some of it out of the way a little bit, kind of in the beginning. And then as the movie progresses, yeah, there's humor, but it's not the kind of goofy, weird humor that we've seen in Ragnarok. I'm hoping it kind of dries out a little bit. And I say that because when I see, and I can't think, what's Jane Foster's Thor called again?
Mighty Thor.
Mighty Thor. I'm hoping that once Mighty Thor kind of gets on the scene in the movie, it kind of balances back out to a certain balance of humor that Thor has. And I mean, that's really all I can say. Like, it's hard because I really love Taika's work, but yeah, sometimes his humor can be a little much. And I feel like in Ragnarok, they really kind of put it in your face, and I'm really hoping that they don't just totally amp it up too much. Because that was my issues with Ragnarok. Otherwise, I still enjoy Ragnarok. I still think there's a lot of really good storyline happening there. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. But it's like I see this, and I was just waiting in the whole trailer, literally, to see Jane show up. Like, I literally was like, when are we going to get it? When are we going to get it? When are we going to get it? I know it's coming. I know it's coming. And just to see Mjolnir come through the air, and you could tell it's like, it's kind of like all like put together. It's got little ripples of light through it. I'm like, oh God, there it is. And then she catches it. I'm like, oh, it's just so cool to see her. So I'm hopeful that this movie's going to be good and it's not going to be too overbearingly with the Ragnarokish humor. And it probably is. But I'm hopeful that maybe they get out of the way early. Man, I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm still excited to see this movie.
No, I fully know based on the reaction I've seen online, and that I feel like the grumpy old guy who's like, oh, this isn't for me. But I don't know. Like, do I still have hope that the movie isn't going to be the total dynamic that we get from this teaser? I don't. Like, but I think about Guardians and then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And like how I felt with that sequel, like all of the certain humorous aspects of that first movie that were great were amplified, like Drax. I think about Drax, how like I love Drax in that first film, and then in the second film, it was just too much of like, let's just constant like funny Drax jokes. Like, okay, no, like this, stop. And I'm hoping that's not what kind of thing that happens here. So. Sorry, Yasha.
No, it's like, look, I get it with the Guardians of the Galaxy thing because I actually feel the same way about the Drax humor because here he was a gigantic badass that just happened to say funny things here and there.
Right.
But then in the second one, they really dove headfirst into like making him overly almost simple. And I don't want to say stupid because stupid feels like negative, but just maybe simple. And almost like a child, but brute strength. But we never got a chance to see that Drax from the first one again. Like he wasn't a badass. He was just kind of there. And that kind of bummed me out with his character because I really did enjoy that. I really liked Ragnarok. I thought it was a pretty cool balance of humor and dark storytelling and, progression of the character and everything. I thought it was a lot of fun. I see your point when it comes to like, the leaning into like the humor. I thought he did a really good job with balancing it a little bit back and forth in the humor in Ragnarok. That's just me. But I do understand your point when it comes to that. Like, and hopefully it's not too much of a deep dive into like, let's just make everything a silly joke. I fully expected Jane Foster to come in and Honestly, I mean, I hate to say it, Michelle, but it's like, I mean, when I think she comes in, I think we're just going to get a lot of humor once she comes in. Like, this is what you feel like all the time, like all this power and all this, like just really jokey when it comes to that. I don't think she'll have her badass moment for sure, but I think that when they bring her in, they're going to be so bouncing off of each other when it comes to the energy that they have, and her being worthy of holding Mjolnir and all that stuff. I don't think it's going to be as. I mean, I think it's going to be cool, but I think it's going to be a lot of humor, especially from Taika. Like I just do when it comes to that. And like you guys, I mean, I really enjoy his work. Like I really, really do. Like some of the stuff that he's done. I mean, I don't know too many people that can make. I mean, a whole film about Nazi propaganda and make it basically almost like a comedy and go through so many different waves of emotions through that film. And I mean, I absolutely adore that film. So, I mean, I get where you guys are coming from, but I mean, I'm still like kind of amped to see it. I thought it was a really nice teaser. I mean, I want to see gore, but at the same time, I totally understand why they didn't show him first. Why not wait on that a little bit? Probably maybe for the special effects, or just just tease people a little bit longer when it comes to the progression, or when that character is going to finally make its appearance. Because I think the tone of the entire trailer is definitely going to change when they introduce Gore, the God Butcher. I think, yeah. And I'm still holding out for Beta Ray Bill.
Well, yeah, that's Thor: Love
That
and
would
Thunder.
be
When does that come out? July 8th, I think is
Yeah.
the release date. Cool. Top of my head, that's right. With that, Bobby, you watched another film other than our review this week. What was that?
Yeah, it's a movie called Duel, and I won't say too much about it just because I think the the less you know about this movie, the better you are for it, because I knew the premise going into it because I heard a little bit of a synopsis for it, which made me interested to go see it in the first place. But knowing a little bit about it, it was like I felt like you're just sort of waiting for it to get to the point where you don't know about it. So, and there's a decent amount up front to prepare you for what's supposed to happen. And so you're just kind of, well, at least I felt like watching it, I was just kind of waiting to get to that part. So, the how can I say? So the Karen Gillan is in it, and she is playing a person who, for in this world, there's people who can have duplicates of themselves. They can have a twin under certain circumstances, and Karen Gillan's character finds herself in this circumstance where she needs to create a double of herself. And in doing so, there are strict guidelines within that. And something happens that causes a friction between the two of them. And then there's a resolution that has to happen because of the fact that the two of them they can't coexist, basically. And so that becomes sort of the general outline of the story, and it's so vague to be able to say it that way. But I do think that if you were to watch it and going a little bit more cold, you would enjoy it a little bit more. I think it was okay, and I thought that a lot of it came down to getting to the point of where I think I didn't know some things based on the premise of it and the setup. Had I not known that, maybe I think I might have a little bit of a difference in the way I felt about it. But overall, I did think it was still at least okay. But I wouldn't tell anyone to go to the theater to check this out when there's so many other ones out right now that I think are worth your movie going dollar. So when it hits streaming, I would say check it out, and maybe I'll bring it back up again once it does hit streaming. But it's not a bad movie. I just think that there's a lot of other really good movies out right now.
Yeah, it's Duel, and that's, you said, is in theaters only, right? It's not available on streaming at all.
As far as I know, yeah, I think it's only in theaters.
Nice. With that, anybody watch anything else you wanted to talk about this week before we get to our review? I missed anyone.
I mean, quickly, I'm all caught up on Better Call Saul. Bobby and I were texting about it earlier today, and the new season starts tonight. I haven't decided on whether or not I'm going to try and figure out if I'm going to watch it live or if I'm just going to wait until it's completely all out. That way I can kind of binge it, because it is definitely binge worthy right now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that final season. And they had mentioned that some of the characters from Breaking Bad will be appearing this season in the show. So,
which, I mean, Bobby, we could talk about that later, because I don't know how that would necessarily work aside from one particular character. And I don't, they don't really need to tie everything together. I think the little hints that they've done
a good job in terms of when they do tie things together to Breaking Bad. So I think that it's in capable hands, because the creator Vince Gilligan is really good at storytelling, and I think that we're in for a ride this season. So I'm looking forward to that tonight.
This is what we've been waiting for. Literally, this is what we've been waiting for.
I think.
Oh, go ahead, you.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, all I can think of as far as like stuff to see, I haven't watched it yet, but there's a new show on Apple Plus that dropped called Roar, and I think it's 8 episodes, and each one's a completely different storyline with a different like main character and different thing that's happening to them. And it's all female focused, but it looks really intriguing. I really want to see it. Like, there's an episode with Nicole Kidman, and I guess the basic premise that you kind of get teased out in the trailer is that she eats photographs for some reason. It stimulates something, and then her name. She was in Community, and she was the creators. Actually, created that wrestling show as well, and she was in it. I can't think of her name. Gosh darn! But she's in it. And I guess she basically plays a character, a woman that died and comes back as a ghost and helps to solve her own murder. And then there's a woman. It's like the woman who lives on the shelf, and I guess her husband has her up on a mantle. And then, I don't know, it just seems intriguing. Like, every storyline seems very interesting and different from the last, but very. I know in the end, you kind of, if you looked at them as a whole, I'm sure that you go, oh, there's a connection of some kind to something dealing with like something that women do or can't. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but I'm looking forward to it. That is something I would definitely say, if you guys are looking, people are looking for something like new and fresh to watch, that definitely seems very new and fresh and something different to watch for certain. So
I did see the trailer for that. That looks, I will co-sign on that. Like, that does look very, very good. Like, it looks really interesting. Like, it looks weird, and I like. I love it. I love all of it. It
looks weird, but well put together. I mean, I wouldn't want to say it looks like Twilight Zone-y or anything. Maybe a little bit. I don't know. Like, it's interesting. It's very intriguing for sure. So.
Yeah, Apple Plus always having some good stuff.
They always have unique stuff. I still want to watch Severance. You know.
I'm surprised, because that seems to be the talk right now in terms of must see TV right now.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, with that, we are going to move into this week's featured review. That is Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, the latest in the Harry Potter franchise, or the Wizarding World franchise, I guess I should say.
I guess technically it's
Wizarding World. This is directed by David Yates. He's now directed, including this film, the last 7 Harry Potter films, Wizarding World films. Sorry. Well, I mean, you know, if I were to read the description from IMDb, it'd be pretty short, but I'll read it anyway. Albus Dumbledore assigns Newt and his allies with a mission related to the rising power of Grindelwald. Speaking of Grindelwald, as you are probably aware, that role has been recast for this film. It's now played by Mads Mikkelsen. I can say his name right. We're going to review this film. I'm sure we are going to get to spoilers, but we won't talk about spoilers from the get-go. If we do start talking about spoilers, I'm sure we'll give a warning before we do. Sorry, Michelle.
Michelle is
Okay.
disappointed that we're not going
You're
to
like,
talk.
I just want to jump right in this
Dig
way.
into
Yeah.
this bad boy.
Well, hey, Michelle, you seem excited. You want to go first? What do you think of?
Oh man, I went first on Love and Thunder.
Oh man, you jumped up. I'm sorry, I had to call on you first.
I feel like I missed the opportunity. I'm not wearing any Hogwarts shirt tonight.
I'll do there.
No, I don't know what I was thinking. Anyways, so I guess the best way to say it right now is for this film, I would say that my feelings are mixed. There's a lot in here that I did like and definitely enjoyed, and there's a few things that I not so much, and that seems about par for the course for the thus far in the Fantastic Beasts portion of the Wizarding World. I will say, like, as far as Mads taking the role of Grindelwald, I'm good with it. And there's no hate towards Johnny Depp. I know he's got his whole legal situations in life going on, and I still like Johnny Depp. But I will say, like, I do now kind of wish I had seen that it had just been Mads all along. There's a quiet eeriness to him a lot of the time, and he just brings kind of this certain aura that I think could have played the character in a different light in the first two films. It would have been interesting to see him. Not that he's really featured in the first one very long. So no, I think Mads in it is really good actually. I don't know. It's hard not to get too much into spoilers, but I think what I liked is that there is, in some ways, there are more Fantastic Beasts in this film. And in other ways, then they disappear for long periods of time. And it does kind of make you go, this is supposed to have the Fantastic Beasts in it, right? Like, that's kind of the whole idea, is that we do have an animalistic aspect brought into the storytelling here. And it's about Newt and his adventures with them. And, like, this is a part of it, but I don't know, it's something that was missing from the last film. I think is still kind of an issue with this film as well. But it's nice to kind of see the history and where everything progresses. And there's a huge part of this movie that it mirrors a certain time in our American history, or not American, world history, of our world history, and I'll just say the Muggle side of life during that time frame, and then it flips into the Wizarding world, and it's really intriguing. And we'll talk some more about that in spoilers. And that I thought was really interesting to watch. That aspect of really like, wow, okay, this is how the Wizarding world is basically dealing with that same kind of idealism. So that was kind of cool, actually. I thought. I don't know. All I can say is I'm mixed. I definitely did not love this movie, but I definitely didn't hate this movie. It's I don't even want to say it's good or that it's a solid film. It just kind of is. It's just kind of moving the story forward. And that's not a bad thing, but there's also not a ton of stand out for me in this film. And I think that's kind of the bummer of it in a way. So I'm mixed. This is where I land on this one.
All right. Bobby.
Yeah.
Of this film.
Yeah, I would say if I was to talk about these movies in sequential order, they've all gotten better for me. I know I'm in the minority that likes the second one at all compared to the first one or in general. But I think that the weirdness about what these movies are for me is that I'll just say right off the bat without sugarcoating it, is that I did enjoy this movie and I liked it more than the other two. But where I think I feel a little conflicted at and sort of mixed up about it is that, first of all, I think that Jude Law as Dumbledore is just amazing. I think he's so good. And it's like every time I see him on screen, I'm completely drawn to what he's doing and want to see more of him and his story and everything. And Mads Mikkelsen is great as Grindelwald, and I think that also when you see the two of them together, it's awesome on screen. And then it it's where it makes me a little sort of hesitant is that with Newt, it's like I don't dislike Newt, but he, in comparison to the other characters, I don't find myself interested in what's going on with him. Yeah, I like when he's with Beast and they show these different beasts and stuff like that's going on. But his story as a lead character, I think that's a problem if I don't really care about what's going on with his story. And I'm more interested in everything else. What I think one of the things I really liked about this movie is the other characters that they introduced. I found myself interested in what's going on with them, like the one character who has a backstory. I'm trying not to say too much since we haven't got the spoilers, but with his story and how he comes into the crew and some of the things that he has to do, I'm like interested in what his story is. And the school teacher, she was cool too. I liked her story and seeing her and her humor and the way she interacted. And then what is it? Jacob, I think is the character's name. Yeah, he was great in this, and seeing from that Muggle point of view, I think that's great as well. And his story with Queenie, I like seeing that. And then it was just like Newt's there, and it's like it's not again that I don't dislike him. It's just that when I compare him to all those other characters, I'm like, oh, more wanting to see what's going on with them than I do want to see what's going on with him. And so that's where I'm sort of conflicted with it, because then it's like, well, where do we go from here? Do we have more Dumbledore in there with Jude Law, or is that story over for now and maybe we swing back around in another movie with him? And if so, then I would want Newt to be surrounded by these new characters we picked up in this movie, because I felt like they were a little bit more dynamic to me, and I'd be more interested in seeing them as a whole crew as opposed to just seeing Newt in some adventure that doesn't include them in some sort of side story thing. So it's weird because I enjoyed it on the level of having so many other characters to feed off of, as opposed to the character we've been following since the first movie. So I think I'll wait until we get to some spoilers and stuff to talk about some other things, but overall I did enjoy it, but I don't know if I enjoyed it for the right reasons, kind of thing. So I think at the very least I would want to see more from this series, because I feel like, at least for me, this helped to really kind of kickstart things in a way that makes it interesting, if it goes into a certain direction that I don't know that it will.
No, I mean, we'll talk probably some more in spoilers, but yeah, the Newt situation is a situation. Like you said, like he's really supposed to be kind of the main character, and they don't really focus and do enough to make you care about this main character. And we'll talk more in spoilers, but yeah, no, I have to agree with you on that one, Bobby. Like, that's one of the other, like, there's a lot of things that I bumped on, and that's still kind of one of them, unfortunately.
Yasha, what did you think of this one?
Wow. Let's see. Where do I begin? I saw an article the other day, and it really summed up to me what this movie was. And the article's statement was how Warner Brothers destroyed their most profitable franchise yet. And I mean, like Bobby said, I mean, for all the points that you pointed out when it came to the negative aspects of the film, I really, really centered in on. And it's it's one of the reasons why I didn't particularly enjoy this film. I'm having a hard time caring about where this goes because I found a lot of inconsistencies and I had a lot of questions. I felt it was incredibly slow. It dragged on needlessly in the beginning. I did not like the music choice. They made it very slow and drab. I don't care about Newt's story whatsoever anymore. It's a movie with a title Beasts where we barely get any beasts or we see maybe one or two. The special effects for the beasts were piss poor and pathetic when it came down to it. I have a lot of questions in regards to spoilers and whatnot. I like Mads a lot as an actor. I think he's a fantastic person. I think he's a fantastic bad guy. Never really got a chance to see the full capacity of his power, in my opinion, that I think we should have throughout this entire movie. Kind of starting to wonder why Credence is even there. And we'll get into that a little bit more when it comes to spoilers. But overall, no, I did not really particularly enjoy this movie. I found it boring, slow, and kind of inconsistent. And it doesn't really draw me in or make me want to go and explore and see the next one. Now, I probably will. But I am super, super interested to see what they do because I can't imagine that it did all that great over the weekend. I'm actually looking the numbers up right now. Oh, well, it hit their mark. They wanted to go for 40 million domestically, and they've done that. So I guess by number standards, it's a success for them. But overall, I did not particularly care for it. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I probably gave it a 4.
All right. Okay, well, for me, I, as a Harry Potter fan, have been not thrilled with these Fantastic Beasts films. I guess to recap, I thought the first movie was fine. I didn't really enjoy the second film. This movie, I think, is, I guess I would say, easily the best of the three so far, for me. With that, I didn't love it, but I thought this movie was good, I guess is the way I'd put it. But is it great? Definitely not. I think it ends better than a good chunk of the middle. I in a way, I think, one of the problems with these films is that there's a, to use a pun, like there's a magic about the Harry Potter films that, just doesn't exist here. And I think this movie does a better job at that than the first two Fantastic Beasts movies do. But, yeah, is it still great? No. And I think a lot of that is missing because of the fact that those Harry Potter films are kind of looking at this world from a more childlike perspective. And these movies seem to be trying to tell a more serious tale. But at the same time, it's very evident that Warner Brothers is changing kind of the plan as they go along. I mean, they went into this with, hey, we're going to make prequel films based on Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, that book. And Newt, who wrote the book. And that sounds kind of, okay, that's different. But then, like, based on, like, where it seems like the story is going, it doesn't seem like Newt and Fantastic Beasts need to really be involved much at all. But at the same time, this movie, I think, in terms of Fantastic Beasts, I think does a better job than the last film did. I mean, there is in fact, a creature that is the centerpiece of this entire story in this third film. So, yeah, when it comes to Fantastic Beasts, I think this movie did better. But as a prequel series on the whole, like, it's like we started with, hey, let's start this whole franchise based on Fantastic Beasts. But it's like, I think I said this before we saw the movie, I feel like they could just veer away from that. And this is obviously turned into let's tell the story of Dumbledore and Grindelwald. And we kind of know where that's going. We just kind of want to see how it actually plays out. And, as a Harry Potter fan, I do still want to see how that plays out. Will we get to based on box office and plans with Warner Brothers? I don't know. I mean, I think the last we've heard is that, these plans have changed too, but I think the most recent plan has been to make 5 films, right? I think at one point it was like 7.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, at
Um,
one point was it 7, something like that.
yeah. So I am still, in a way, hopeful we get those 5 films just because I want to see them. But I mean, are they great? No. And there's one thing I was going to just say, but I guess we'll talk about that in spoilers. But based on the way this movie ends, yeah. Overall, I thought this movie was better. And I went through a time leading up to it where I was like, okay, now I'm kind of getting interested, and I wouldn't say excited, but getting more interested in this based on the trailers. And then the movie came out, and I was seeing general reviews and reaction and Rotten Tomato scores, and I was like, oh, okay, now my expectations are going back down. And then I watched it, and I was like, okay, that was okay. That was better than I was expecting walking into the theater that night when I went to watch it. But I don't know. I guess that's the best way I can put it. That makes sense.
That really surprises me. That just really surprises me.
Really?
Your review, because I mean, I like the Harry Potter world and the magic and magician, and I just felt like it was really lacking in this. And I thought that the special effects were that when they were holding the creature, I sat there and literally thought this is going to drive David crazy, because you can't be such a stickler for something that looks fake or looks real, and whether or not it actually looks like it's a part of the film. But it's like when they're holding this deer-like creature, it does not even look like it's real. Like it looks like it's animated in in their arms. I mean, it just looks like they very much were like, hey, do the minimal now, and we'll add the really good stuff at the end of the movie.
I mean, I would argue, based on anything I've seen in any of the Harry Potter films, creature-wise, to me, it felt about on par.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, maybe excluding the first 2 films where they actually did reach out to Jim Henson. They used some of they used some puppetry in the first 2 films, but the rest of the films were fully, digitized. Yeah, I would agree with that, because those really kind of were
right.
No, I agree. Like I will say, like, of the 3 Fantastic Beasts, I would say if I had to rank them, I think the first one would be first, this one would be second, and the second one would be my 3rd place. Like, thus far. We should just talk spoilers. We should just talk spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, where I am, this is definitely number 1 for me.
Oh yeah.
Like,
really? God damn, man.
And
what did I watch then? Like,
I'm saying that as someone who didn't love the first 2 movies. I mean, I'm putting it at number 1, but I'm not saying it's great.
Right. Let's clarify that.
I think in a lot of ways the movie ends well. And I mean, we're about to talk about spoilers, and I'll get into why I feel that works. But no, by no stretch of the imagination do I think this movie totally works. But based on what they've done so far, I enjoyed it the most. That's where I am with it. It seems like we want to talk about spoilers, so we'll give our spoiler warning now for Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. If you've not seen the film yet, you might want to step away, come back at any time, and finish up the show after you've seen it. We're going to talk about the spoilers, or talk about spoilers from here on out.
So it sounds like you want to talk about the ending, and all I can really say about the ending is that I feel like, as far as these films go, this one ends more traditionally as the Harry Potter films would end. Like, it kind of concludes that situation and still leaves you on a cliffhanger, and then it goes to a scene that leaves you hopeful for the world moving forward. Still on edge, but hopeful. And I think it has the closest ending to more of the traditional Harry Potter films do than the first 2 Fantastic Beasts.
I mean, the only thing I was going to point out about the ending, and I, of course, don't know anything that's going on behind the scenes at Warner Brothers and their plans for these next 2 films, if they're happening. But to me, when I watched the ending of this film, it definitely felt like it was a way to end this film if there were going to be no more movies.
Agreed.
And
they could not.
if indeed this movie performs poorly and they decide in the top floor offices at Warner Brothers that we're done with this, we're not making any more Fantastic Beasts movies, this could be a good wrap up. And in that respect, it could work. It worked.
Yeah.
Like for this little, I watched that final scene, and for a little group, a group of a family here in this trilogy of movies that we've seen, that in a way I didn't really care about. Like, I watched the ending going, no, I kind of care about these people. Like, right, finally, at the very end of this movie,
Yeah.
like, this wedding scene, it worked. And with Dumbledore kind of watching from a distance, and by the way, Bobby, I totally agree with you. Jude Law as a young Dumbledore totally works. So I want to see more of him in this role. I want to see like him getting closer to the Dumbledore we know from the Harry Potter movies, and to see how that kind of transition works. Do I fear we may not get that? Of course I fear it. And if we don't, that's kind of fine. But if there's something good about these movies, it's him. And
yeah,
and I would love to see more of it. But Eddie Redmayne is great in his role as Newt. And as much as I go, hey, you don't even need to have this whole Fantastic Beasts and Newt character really in these movies anymore. Like, I wish that they could have just made Fantastic Beasts movies and not have it be like, let's turn it into connecting it directly to the Harry Potter films. Like
each film was just a different adventure for different beasts.
Right. And set in this universe.
Just him collecting beasts and, like different weird stuff would happen.
There were scenes in this movie like, in a way, like I think we got a hint of it in the trailer with the scene of him going to try to rescue his brother and those like Cretaceous looking creatures that he like does this dance with. And seeing in the teaser, the trailer, it's like, oh, okay, here's a silly thing. It's going to be just kind of ridiculous. But in the movie, it worked for me. I was like, oh, this is like a Harry Potter kind of thing that felt like a Harry Potter movie.
You have to do this weird thing to make the animal respond to you.
Right.
Yeah.
It was fun. Like, but then there was a lot of other stuff in the middle of the film that was just very slow and
like,
and the allegory, maybe it was a little too heavy-handed, the allegory to kind of Trump politics. And even though I get what the movie I think is trying, the connections the movie's trying to make there, maybe it was a little much, but I don't know where I'm going with that, but something I noted as watching it.
I think for me the allegory is there, but I think it's more, I don't know if I would say more of the Trump era allegory. I think it was more Hitler-esque. It was just,
I don't know. I feel like while writing this, there was definitely a lot of inspiration taken not only just 100%. From back then, but more modern politics.
100%. I agree with you 100%.
I'm not mad at that. I think it's interesting to see them bring some of those aspects in.
Right.
But in more of a Wizarding World way instead of such a Muggle perspective on history and time at that time frame.
And speaking of Muggles, like, I definitely had issues with the way Dan Fogler's character was used in the second film. It felt forced to like kind of keep him there when he didn't need to be there anymore. And maybe that's still kind of the case here, but at the same time, he's so good in that role and the character's great. So I'm conflicted when it comes to him in this movie.
I think what it is I really enjoy the storyline between Jacob and Queenie, and I enjoy that. And that for me is what I really like about it. And he's really good as Jacob. Like, he's freaking lovable. Like, Dumbledore says it. Like, the man's got heart, and it's a good character. They just fumbled the way they used him a lot of the time. But then the relationship he has with Queenie, I think, is really good. And yeah, well, I'm gonna backtrack. The thing about Jude Law's character as Dumbledore is that, I mean, yeah, it's a much younger Dumbledore, but like, especially in this film, I feel like they did actually write some lines and some things that were really really the forefront of what makes Dumbledore the person he is. Like he has this calm sense of knowing, but not fully knowing, but knowing what's up and what's going on and how he can kind of, I mean, he's not a fortune seer, like he doesn't see the future, but he knows like, okay, this is how things are probably going to play out. And I think if we work this line, and this line, we can make it work in our favor. And he just has this calm about him. And yeah, like seeing him on screen is really captivating. He's a really, he makes young Dumbledore very interesting. And yeah, seeing him with Grindelwald together, like the two of them, I think it's really intriguing. Like watching them is good. Yeah, it's kind of like if they took two different things and kind of mushed them. They took like a Fantastic Beasts idea, and then they took a Dumbledore Grindelwald storyline and they mushed them together. So just maybe making two different like little franchisee worlds, I guess. And I want to see how that plays out. But yeah, it's frustrating to watch it play out because it's not playing out in the best way.
You know, it's interesting to me because I feel like one of the things that maybe was a mistake in the way that this whole Wizarding World was conceived is that maybe they put all their eggs in one basket and they probably shouldn't have. They maybe should have tried to do something in what Star Wars tried to do but gave up on so quickly, which is have a main line of movies but also do one-offs. And that could have been something that could have been a little bit more rewarding for them. You know, it's weird because I could easily see a scenario where this could be 9 movies. And then in the first 3 movies, it's Newt's story. In the second set of movies, it could have been, or it could be Dumbledore's story. And then in the last set, it could be Voldemort or whatever. It's just leading right up to Harry Potter. And you get in that last 3 set of movies, you could even see Harry's parents at some point in that.
The last couple stories basically focus on Harry's parents starting out in Hogwarts, and then they become adults, and then they become married, and they have Harry, and then the final battle with Voldemort, and then
I think this is what you're saying, Bobby, and like, because I think this, I've had this conversation with some of my friends. It's like they could have just made each movie like its own standalone thing instead of trying to make it this huge franchise. Yeah. Like the first one being, you know, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Literally, that's the title of the film.
Yep.
And then the second one being The Crimes of Grindelwald, and still have some of these characters in there, but not necessarily have it trying to link into this whole Fantastic Beast scenario. Right. And then in the third one, seriously, just have the Secrets of Dumbledore, and you know, have that, and not have Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore or whatever and stuff like that attached onto it. It doesn't have to. It could have just been a Hogwarts Tale, you know, or something like that, you know, or something to the effect. If you want to try and have them linked, but nobody's not going to know that they're not all linked. You know, like I mean, it's when it comes to that sort of thing, like it's just. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Bobby. If I did, but it's like that's literally what I think would have been really cool. And it's like if you want to have something that leads into the Harry Potter franchise in that world, like I would have loved to see the Rise of Voldemort, because they talk so much about the story. And while we may know what the story and how it ends, that doesn't stop people from going to see it, because we all know how Darth Vader dies. We all know how that story ends. But it's like, you know, why not put that, you know, and have this, you know, have the whole story of Harry's parents before they got together, showing how, you know, his dad was a little bit of a bully and like kind of a jerk. And then he meets his mom and calms him down, and they form the Order of the Phoenix and or whatever and stuff like that. Right. And they have their own story, and all the parents are still involved. And it's like, and then the rise of Voldemort, and Voldemort ends up killing, and then boom, we're right into the franchise, because that's literally what Star Wars did. Like, I mean, we ended that, you know, with Rogue One, we ended with an amazing, epic little scene from Darth Vader dropping us right into A New Hope. Mm-hmm. Like, and I just don't understand why you wouldn't do something like that. Because, I mean, I would watch the shit out of that, because I would love to see how, because Voldemort is like so bad, and he has this mysterious mysticism about him of being such a horrible and badass character, that it's like you can make him absolutely a nightmare growing up as this teenager, just tormenting and destroying like little people. And like, I mean, I just think it would have been cool. I'm getting off on a tangent right now, but it's like, so I apologize, Bobby. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's all good. But I think like what some of the things I did like in this movie, as I mentioned sort of earlier in the before we got into the spoilers, is forgive me, I forget the character's name, but the guy who had the sister, and just
Lestrange's sister or Lestrange's brother, Lito Lestrange's brother, who is like, I guess technically he's a half brother. He has a different last name, and he comes from the French side of things. But I guess he's like a half brother. But they wound up actually kind of growing up together and having a good connection.
Yeah, which I thought was a nice little tie-in, and I thought like his story was interesting. They didn't give a lot of it there, but I thought as a character, he did keep me guessing in terms of where his allegiance would ultimately end up, just because of how they introduced him. He seemed very above it and not really connecting with the group that he was there with. And so I was like, oh, this is interesting. I kind of want to see a little bit more of what this character is like going forward.
The character's use of comma. It sounds like comma, but it's comma with a K, K-A-M-A.
Yes.
And I think and it's hilarious. I'm so sorry. So David and I, at the end of seeing this movie, I looked at him and I was like, I should have rewatched the second one. I need a refresher on how the second one ended. Because he, I think, was in that battle at the very end of the film.
Really?
And I really need to rewatch this movie because I'm wasn't he in the end of it? And I don't know. Like, these are, sorry. Go ahead.
If he was, I totally blanked on that too.
He is credited in the second film.
So I think he shows up in that last scene.
Does appear, and I haven't seen the second film in a while.
Yeah, same.
If I remember,
I'm glad you said that.
If I remember, it's in that big circle round. Right. And they all wind up having this little bit of a battle, and everybody has to kind of pick signs, and that's when I think he kills Lita. And it's literally that moment, and then it proceeds into this film. But it's like it says something to me about the second film. I don't remember all of this in vivid detail. I remember it very vaguely. So clearly, the second film didn't do a lot for me.
So speaking of that, like just to do a quick dive, like. This is one of the problems that I had with the film. At the end of the second one, I remember Grindelwald being a terrorist. Like literally, he escaped from prison. He goes through the entire movie as people trying to hunt him down and everything like that. I literally felt like I missed an entire movie or a step when I started this film, and I'm watching this and I'm like, so he's running for political office, like of the magic world? What happened in between being a magical terrorist to now being a political figure that people are supporting? He had his supporters. Like I remember that because Queenie was one of those people at the end of the film where she walked off and then he had all these supporters. Now, if I need to rewatch the second one, then I'll go back and I'll do that to see if that can kind of connect the dots. But it felt like it took a huge leap in just like, hey, and I am one of those people that will, like, hey, if this is how this movie is, fine, this is how the movie is. But it just felt like there was a massive gap in an explanation as to like this person being a political terrorist or a magical terrorist. And he was the worst thing ever. He had to escape from prison. And he was this, huge manhunt to try and get him down. And here he is walking around free as a bird, running for office, giving speeches or, and everybody's okay with this. It just didn't make sense to me. I was like, wait, what happened? What did I miss that he is now okay to be in public and nobody's going to bother him?
I thought they explained it in this movie why that was the case. At least from my understanding, it just seemed like, essentially he had someone on the inside that helped kind of pave the way for him to be able to move his way up, as such things happen in real life where someone should probably be in jail. But
fair, but I think go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just thought that maybe that with him, where we first see him in the beginning of the movie, he's pretty much still on the outskirts, and he's working on his comeback plan, so to speak. And part of that has to do with getting that fantastic beast. I forget what they called it in the movie, but to
Like a
help him
Chillin,
see,
I think.
yeah, the
Chillin.
Chilean. But the fact that he can now see the future and figure out ways in which to maneuver himself into a better position, I think that helped him get to where he was, and then lead the breadcrumbs and get himself into a position to be able to run for that office, and then get himself into that running, and then even then you still see that there was many people still against him, but he was in there in a way that it was okay for him to be there, but people still didn't. There was still a decent amount of people that did not like him there, and that's why they had to have that chilling at the end to sort of confirm it and give him that status to say, yeah, no, everyone needs to jump on board, because this chillin is saying, like, hey, he's the one to lead us. So
Right.
Yeah, but he
I
didn't. He
thought
was,
they did.
but he
Yeah, but
wasn't able to see the future until he killed the Chillin.
Right.
Like he wasn't able to
Right.
do that. Like, so it's like he literally was a
which was
magical
savage,
terrorist.
by the way. I kind of thought,
Yeah, that was savage too. Agreed.
That was crazy.
But it just, and I talked to another friend of mine, and he felt the same way. Like when he went to go see the movie, he had the same question. He's like, wasn't this guy just a magical terrorist just a second ago? Like how did he come to power to have these, like, not be held accountable for his crimes and be free from jail and now running for political office? There
wasn't enough evidence, really. I mean, that's kind of what the guy had said. But again, he was on the take, really. So it was like, he's like, oh, there's not enough evidence. And it was like, again, sort of mirrors real life, where there's everyone knows someone's guilty, but you can't quite prove it. And since there wasn't the proof, he was able to get absolved of those crimes, essentially.
Trump impeachment.
And so I think that's kind of what helped pave that way, a lot of it. And I kind of bought into it just on that basis. Is like, this kind of stuff happens in real life, where people skirt on things that they should have been convicted of, and it seems like this happens in the magical world as well.
Everybody gets held accountable for all of their crimes. What are you talking about?
Hitler.
But I mean, yeah, I think that also, that plays into modern politics, which you guys are hinting at. Like, not only does he kind of get off at not having enough evidence, I guess, against him and what have you, but not only that, then he jumps straight into, hey, I can run for office over the wizarding world for the whole planet, and going into, mirroring modern politics. That may sound ridiculous, like this guy was a terrorist, and even if there wasn't enough evidence, it seemed pretty apparent this guy was a bad guy, but yet now he can run for office and he has supporters. Like,
propaganda.
Like, going back into modern politics, like you see the similarities there, and I think what this movie was trying to do with that, like, it's crazy to many of us, but at the same time, there's many other people that go, no, this guy is saying all the things I agree with, and I support him.
I'm going to circle back to Bobby, because he was trying to talk about Kama, and you're trying to talk about Lally Hicks, the new character that we all actually really enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. I really enjoyed, and what I think I like about her is that she just seemed like so cheery and optimistic, and had a good disposition towards everyone. And I like how her use of magic kind of revolved around books and stuff, and how she even moves around and stuff. And that was one of the things I really still like about this series. And I think I even mentioned it in our other reviews of the other two movies, is that even though there's definitely issues with these movies, I still like being in that world of magic. And I think I do agree with David in that you do lose that child's point of view of the sense of wonder of magic for seeing it for the first time, because you're dealing with adults that know their stuff. And so it's just a matter of fact for them. but I still enjoy seeing these spells that they do and seeing how magic looks and how they do it and how lethal it can be when, especially in that scene in the alley when it was Newt's brother and the teacher, and they were surrounded by all these other bad guys, and they're just like,
Yeah.
wanding, each other, and it was just like pretty great to see. So I love seeing the magic still that exists in the Harry Potter world that I don't get tired of seeing. But it sounds like you had something, Michelle, too.
I was just gonna say, no, I fully agree with you. I think what I enjoy about this, I think is one of the things David actually is not a fan of, and I think, well, because you said that you feel that the magic doesn't feel the same, and for me, like it's like what you just said, Bobby. Whereas the magic in the Harry Potter is kids learning it, so yeah, they say the words a lot more of what spell they're performing, and the adults don't have to verbally say the spell that they're performing as much, and they can be really badass. Like Lally Hicks is a badass wizard. She is hella good. I mean, and Dumbledore even says, he's like, yeah, y'all need to watch out for her. Like, if you want a
Her
girl to have your
defensive
back,
magic.
she's got your back. And she does, dude. Like, she's crazy fast with her wand, and she's really good at thinking about what spell she wants to put out to knock an opponent out of competition, and she's really good at it. And like, I love watching that. Like, I like watching the wizarding fights, like the alleyway one, the one at the formal dinner that they go to. I was like, this is so awesome. Like, it's so cool to see them, and she just does it just effortlessly. Like, she makes casting spells look super easy. And as a person that has a wand and has been to Universal's Wizarding World, casting a spell is harder than it looks. So yeah, like it's fun to watch. Like, I love watching them actually do magic. It's very enjoyable.
I don't think I would say though, like that. So you're saying I don't like
in a past review of one of these, you were not a fan. I think it might have been the first film. You were not a fan of the way that they used the magic. You felt that it was lacking something in the use of. But I also acknowledge you also have a different side of things where you also feel that the magical feeling that the Harry Potter film gives off is not the same magical feeling that this one gives off. And that I agree with.
I'll say, I mean, I'm all for watching, adult pro wizards do their thing, and I don't need to hear the wizards saying the spells and all the charms as they do them by any stretch of the imagination. Though I have to say, there's a scene I think you guys are referring to in the middle of this movie where she is trying to save Fogler's character, which it reminded me of a scene in the second film that felt like it was being more visual than it needed to be, just for the sake of being ridiculously visual. Like, and I'm trying to remember that scene in the second film that I was just like, this is cool, but it's almost like, let's just see how like crazy cool we can make this look just to make it look cool, and almost unnecessary. And that scene reminded me of that, where I was like, this looks cool with the book and the pages and everything, but it almost seems like a little too convoluted, like for what she would just be trying to accomplish here. I don't know if I'm making sense without
It's
like
flair, David. It's flair.
Flair for the sake of like ridiculous flair.
Well,
magic is about a little bit of flair. Okay?
And I mean, the mirror what you guys are saying, by the way, about that character, I love the character as well. So I don't want it to come across like I'm taking a different stance on Lally Hicks.
She's fun and spunky. I like her.
No, I thought she was a great addition to the franchise for sure. But I don't know. I guess I was trying to understand your criticism of what I apparently said in the past. I don't even know what I said. Doesn't matter.
I will say that I do like the flair of it all, and it kind of reminds me. Not that you're saying this, David, but there was no. That last week there was a little bit of discourse around the episode of Moon Knight, where forgive me if everyone hasn't caught up in this episode, but there was a scene in which Khonshu had to align the stars to look like how they did thousands of years ago. And I saw a decent amount of people online saying, well, why didn't he just use that iPad to look at one of those constellation apps where you could just see it? And I was like, well, but what fun would that be?
That be?
It
Yeah.
was like it was fun to see him do that whole thing, even if you could have
Well,
just
I think,
used the
I think
app.
they
But
explain it well enough that the stars move enough that the app is never going to calculate what the
and that's what I
stars looked
figured.
like
I wouldn't have thought that.
6,000 years ago. And I think that's
Yeah.
what he was alluding to. Like,
Google this right now. I'm
like,
trying to make it happen.
maybe the stars app could go back and figure out what the star, maybe the constellation
Maybe
app
hundreds
would
of
be able
years,
to go,
but
would
not
be able to go
thousands.
back to see what like 1795 looked like. Sure. But could it go back to, I don't know, 300 AD?
Right.
Probably freaking not. I'm pretty sure the app is a little less knowledgeable about
Yeah.
exactly how the constellations look, considering constellations are stars that are dead that have died and eventually anyways.
Yeah.
The
So,
point
but
is-
even if it could have, I just think that it's just the idea of that it was a fun thing to
It's
look at
flair.
visually. It made it
It's
look kind of cool
pizzazz.
to do that. So
It's
I will say, and to just jump back in real quick, is that for multiple reasons, and I'll just keep it strictly within the context of the film. I gotta say, I'm glad that we probably have an end resolution to Credence being in these movies.
Yeah.
And again, I'll just keep it in the movie context. And I just found that the character just was lackluster for me, and
Yeah,
I just
I
never
agree.
did anything
Agreed.
for me. So
100%.
I'm really hoping that is the end of that. For
I mean, I didn't
the
really
rest of
enjoy
these
it in the
movies.
first movie, and I was really glad that it concluded in the first movie, and then it pops up in the second movie, and I was just like, dear God. Why?
I just don't
Well, no,
understand
and
like
then-
his like, and that's what I like. One of the things too is like I just didn't understand his presence after a while, and it's like
Right.
in this one we offer a little bit more explanation. And if this guy is so powerful, like they try and promote him to be, but he got absolutely owned by Dumbledore when they fought. Like it is just like, I mean, it just wasn't even like, it just felt like it wasn't even a challenge for Dumbledore. Like, I mean, maybe it was a little bit of a back and forth, but it's like, this guy's supposed to be this badass and this powerful person, this powerful entity, or whatever the case may be. And I was really I liked the development of the character. It's like, okay, the first one, he doesn't know really who he is. Then they find out that he has this power. Then the second one, it's kind of a little bit more of that. And then I'm like, okay, cool. He's in this one too. So we're going to be able to really see. And every time you turn around, he's just getting owned. And I'm like, wait,
Well,
why is he even here? Like
The-
Grindelwald owned him, Dumbledore owned him. Like this guy has done absolutely nothing of any type of power or premise when it comes to that. It just seems like he's there just for the sake of being there.
The depressing upside to it is that in this movie, he's dying. The whole movie is him slowly dying. So if there is a fourth movie, and he's in the fourth movie, he might be in it for a whole scene, literally on his deathbed with his father overlooking him, maybe Dumbledore over his shoulder, and it's him passing away and the Phoenix taking his spirit away. And that's
Right.
great. And we move on because, man, I think we all are done with Credence. Done.
I still, with Credence and with Grindelwald, I'm still waiting to see that moment, like again, where it's like he's super powerful, and why should we really be afraid of him? Because I just don't feel like we've gotten that
From Grindelwald?
from Grindelwald. Yeah. Like, I mean, we got a little bit of a taste of it in the first one, the second one. In the first one, he was very manipulative with his silver tongue, and they actually took the tongue out from the beginning of the second one. And then this one, it's like he kind of shows his power, but I really want to see him get after it. I want to see more. I don't know. It's like with Voldemort, I guess maybe because maybe I'm just comparing the two, and it's unfair.
so.
But with Voldemort, you know, he was very much, he leaned into how bad he was. Like, he was just like, this, you're going to do what I say because I said do it. Whereas in Grindelwald is like, hey, you're going to do what I'm asking because I'm asking you to do it, type of thing. If that makes sense. Does that make any sense? So it's like, maybe I'm comparing the two unfairly. And if that's the case, then I'll take a step back and I'll just kind of reevaluate the movie on my own sometime and just kind of really try to do it.
I think, well, and Michelle and David chime in, please, and correct me if I'm wrong. But I always assumed that Grindelwald isn't like Voldemort powerful on that level. I just assumed that he's powerful, but he's got a lot of persuasion and a lot of followers. And he's also got this really innate feeling to just take over and destroy the Muggles. And so I think that his ability is there, but it's not like that he's super more powerful than anyone else. It's just that he's got a lot of cachet and it has the ability to convince others to get along with his cause and to be able to do a lot of damage because he's still a formidable wizard, but just not like on a Voldemort level, who's just sort of pure powerful, kind of like his actual abilities and power is elevated compared to a normal wizard. But I could be wrong.
I mean, I think the best thing is Voldemort he's magically one of the most powerful people. Grindelwald is a powerful villain in that world because of he's basically the Hitler of that world, and that's the best person I compare it to because in that time frame that's what's going on. He's trying to eradicate Muggles. Hitler was trying to eradicate all of the Jewish nation and most of the African American. Like he was going after. He was trying to whitenize basically the world, and that's kind of what Grindelwald is doing. He wants pure bloodlines, and he's a scary villain in that he has enough people that will follow the propaganda just the way people did with Hitler. And that's what makes him so scary, is just how powerful he can be based on his own thoughts and how he can get people to follow along with his thoughts.
But I also think when comparing him to Voldemort, I mean, I've always looked at Voldemort as like just pure evil, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
You look at, from what we know about his upbringing, you know, based on what we've seen in the Harry Potter films and in the books, and he's just straight up bad guy versus a Grindelwald, which very bad guy, but a little more human. Like, this is someone who was in a relationship and loved Dumbledore, like, and has just gone down a bad road, a very bad road. But I think that's a big difference between him and a Voldemort. I mean, and that's aside just from their like power and their capabilities as wizards. Just he's just a little more human. I mean, just look at the way he looks versus the way Voldemort looks.
Tom Riddle was willing to basically sacrifice. He put in a plan, basically like, when I die, I'm not gonna be dead. You know, like he had a whole evil plan of like, you know what? I'm so horrible that I'm gonna split my own soul and ensure that my evilness will continue on in whatever form it does. And that's freaking evil. That's pretty bad. Like to be at that mental level. He's a sociopath. Voldemort's a sociopath.
We've gone on a bit long.
A little bit. We went down some rabbit holes here.
I'll just ask: is there any wrap up anyone would like to do for this film before we wrap up the whole show? Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts from me. I'll go real quick because it looks like Michelle has some too.
Super fast.
I really did enjoy this movie more than the other two, and I'm very curious to see what happens based on box office and where we left off on this movie, to see where we continue with this story. If it does continue without Newt or with Newt, and who else comes along for the ride.
Yasha?
I mean, I'll watch the next one, but aside from that, I don't have much more than that. Yeah, I'll watch it for the podcast. But I mean, it's you guys made some valid points, so I definitely will watch I'll watch the next one. But I mean, I didn't love this movie by any stretch, so hopefully it gets a little better.
But let it be clear that I'm not the biggest fan of these. And I know that it sounds like they want to do 5, but if they figure out a way to wrap it up in 4, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
All right. I have really no final thoughts. I think I've shared my thoughts on this movie. I think it's better than the other 2, but it doesn't make it great. So it's almost like this movie felt like, okay, it's a little bit step in the right direction. Was how it felt for me. With that, yeah, we're going to wrap things up and get out of here. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at @flicker_effect. We stream this show every Monday night live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. You can find us at all those different places. Make sure if you want to leave any questions or comments, you can do it at all those locations. On YouTube, you can like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified whenever we go live in the future. With that, I'm David Lott.
Hold up, David. Aren't you going to tell us and the people what we're watching for next week's show?
I don't know. What are we watching this week?
Well, my guess would be The Northman.
That would be my guess.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, that movie looks good.
Yeah. So.
All right. So Northman. We're going to be watching Northman next week. So look out for that as well. So again, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
And I'm Michelle Hillary.
Thanks for listening and watching. Bye, everybody.